Welcome to Education Today. I'm Jacob Herbst of Armstrong High School in the Armstrong School District. Tonight we continue a new chapter of programming within the Education Today series. During the 2015-2016 school year, the county commissioners approached the AHS-TV studio about recording their monthly update discussion for publication on their website. Due to the importance of this information to the entire community of the Armstrong School District on the ongoing attempt to keep the district connected with the community, this was seen as a win for everyone. Each month we will be joined by Commissioners Pat Fabian, Jason Renshaw, and George Scummey, as well as a special guest from the county to discuss the local updates and news coming from the Office of the Commissioners. Welcome to Education Today. Now, would you please introduce yourselves to all our viewers?
Sure, Jacob. My name is Pat Fabian, Chairman of the Armstrong County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Jacob. My name is Jason Renshaw. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Armstrong County Commissioners.
I'm George Scummey, and I am the Secretary of the Board of the Armstrong County Commissioners.
And I'm Jen Long. I am the Director of Administration.
Now, my first question is, Mr. Scummey, we missed you last month. Could you please tell us how long you have been serving and why did you choose to run for this position?
I have been serving now for 10 months as the Commissioner. But prior to that, I spent 8 years as the Chief Clerk, which is the right-hand man to the Commissioners. And having that opportunity, I served under 2 boards, and it was a very good learning experience. And my reason, of course, I want to do my best to help the county. I feel that we have a great opportunity to do that with the 2 gentlemen that are sitting to my right here. So.
Now, did that prior job experience, did it help you get ready for this? What you're doing now?
It did, but I will say this: having been even more intimately involved in the process than I was as Chief Clerk, I've learned a lot in 10 months too. So the experience that I gained over the 8 years, sure, it comes in handy, you know, from a historical perspective, and I can help my fellow commissioners and staff with questions. But there's nothing like, you know, being in the fight and actually having to live the position.
Now, can you update us on the 2016 revenues and expenses 11 months into the calendar year and what the projected 2017 budget will be?
Sure, Jacob. That's why we brought Jen Long here with us today. We recently completed our 2nd round of interviews with department heads and elected officials. We didn't necessarily meet with every department head and elected officials, but I would say just about half. And we had a $1.5 million deficit to make up, and this board was adamant that we are not raising taxes. And I believe that message got out pleasantly to our surprise. You know, we were able to get that down to about $1 million before a public meeting. Down $1 million to a $500,000 deficit, excuse me. So we got a little work to do yet. I think we're close, but it was about a $500,000 deficit as we put out the preliminary budget. And I don't know if you gentlemen want to speak to anything, but you know, we can get into some numbers.
I do want to say this, and we've mentioned this on other occasions, that it seemed prophetic in the sense that we were going to face financial hardships, we knew, but the day we were sworn into office, we found out shortly after that ceremony and doing our first public meeting that we were going to lose $400,000 in revenue due to a change in the correction system and a reimbursement rate. And I won't get into the details. The important thing is that's $500,000 that we were hoping to use for improvements and so on and so forth that went away.
And that shows in the final budget here at the end of the year where we have lost some revenue that we have. But I think I would like to kind of give these guys here credit too, as well as us and our team here, that we've been very, very conscious of our spending throughout the year to really watch what we do. And I think that shows the loss at 1.5, but I think it very well could have been higher and almost unattainable to get brought down. But I think with some new strategies and new ways of doing county business, I think we found a way to, and we're going to strive here. And I think we're pretty much knocking on a door to get the budget ironed out here and have it balanced, and it will be. That's our goal. We're not raising taxes, and we can't stress it enough. Times are tough for everybody, so we have to do more with less in our county government, and some days it's tough, but there's certain things, but I think we're on the right track and we're getting there.
And Commissioner Renshaw, when you say we, I know that we're trying to lead by example. Obviously,
yes.
We've done as much as we could to cut in our office, consolidate responsibilities, change practices, efficiency, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But there have been a number of department heads that have also been very helpful in helping us attain the goal of not raising those taxes.
Oh yeah, tremendous. We're getting help. It's very appreciative, and I think they see that as well too. And I think it's something that we're going to work as a team effort here.
Exactly.
Well, I would feel like our whole community would really appreciate the not raising taxes, because I know I'm only 16, but I know many people that very much would like that, because I hear a lot about people talking about taxes, and they're not very big fans of them.
You're right.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think, it's something you have to battle, but I think what we're looking at here is, we can operate, we can do it, and it's possible here, and I think we owe it to the taxpayers out there. That's what we ran on, and we're taxpayers ourselves here. So we can actually see the numbers in the budget here, and I think, we've been operating one way for a long time, and I really believe that it can be done here, and we're going to put our effort in here and succeed here. So with the help of our fellow county employees.
One thing too, gentlemen, was brought up at our November 3rd public meeting. Former Commissioner Rich Fink had said, hey, what about really advocating for our at-will employees? And yes, we do have some union contracts, whether it be at the jail or the health center or CYS. We do have unions that we have to negotiate with and abide by those contracts. And typically there are those cost of living increases in those contracts. But I know one thing, we've worked diligently this year to reduce costs. We knew that we were going to have a deficit at the end of the year. We've met numerous times with our department heads and elected officials, and I know coming into this year that the previous Board of Commissioners had budgeted a cost of living increase or a bump up for those at-will employees. And as we told former Commissioner Rich Fink, the money's not there right now. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to be there, although we don't have it budgeted in 2017. But if we can do some things and things work out, we can always make that wage or maybe a bump next year retroactive. But, it's not that we don't want to give raises. I can't reiterate that enough. We have good, hard-working people at the county. Everybody deserves a raise, but we only have so much money, and
there's services that we're required to pay for.
We're mandated to upkeep some services.
And I think we're going to, in our plan here, we're going to get to those points, and there's some light at the end of the tunnel. As far as that goes. But if you don't have the funds here, we can't go out to the people that are having hardships right now and put that burden on them just to, appease a few people here that, for that period of time. And I think that's something that will come in time. So I tell people, don't judge us on the first 10 months here. Give us some time. Politics in the political world we're in right now takes time. So at the end of 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years, then you can say, hey, you guys didn't do anything, you didn't do these things here. But we're working on projects that take 10 months, years. It's not like you can go in there and say, hey, we're going to start doing this today and we're going to do it right now. So, give us some time, patience, have faith. We have faith.
Commissioner, that's if you come in and you know exactly what's going on. There's a learning curve of at least typically 18 months.
Yeah.
I experienced it. I've talked with other chief clerks, I've talked with other commissioners, and past commissioners of Armstrong County will acknowledge that. So, before you can, and I'm saying though, but I can honestly tell you the efforts that have been made, you've engrossed yourself in a campaign to understand. Lots of questions, get some square answers, understand what you're doing before we're making, I say you, but we're making decisions, okay? And I give you credit. So.
I agree 100% with that, but there's also the little factor that, we're taxpayers, lived in this county for a long time, so we do know a lot of the same issues right now, but how the operation works and internal things go and how, you know, you can't just sit down and, hey, you want a Big Mac, you order it, you got it.
Right.
Here, you got to go through a PO process, you got to go through the budget, see how many you can order and what you can get, and see what's allowed, and check all, so, you know, hey.
No, you're
and George, you're exactly right. I mean, I think it's being new. We ask a lot of questions, and sometimes I think it gets portrayed when it trickles back outside our meetings that these commissioners are micromanaging. And that's not the case at all. We're trying to understand how each and every department is operated. And, you know, with that knowledge base, then, you know, we can make an informed decisions about an array of things. So it's not micromanaging, it's not being petty, it's not being critical. It's being trying to gain that understanding.
Exactly. And it's a fresh set of eyes on a lot of matters that have been in place for quite some time.
Now, Jen, we our November 3rd public meeting, we went out to we put our preliminary budget out. We had about a $500,000 shortfall of where we're going to be. We said we're not raising taxes as Board of Commissioners. So where are we going to make up that $500,000, and where did we make up that $1 million? I mean, we know, but for the listeners.
Well, the $1 million to start with, you know, as you said, meeting with the department heads and things. When we went back for that second round of budget meetings, well, when we did our first round of budget meetings, we asked a lot of questions about what were the needs and the wants, and, you know, everybody came back with their budgets. But getting some of that inside information, we were able to sit down as a team and say, you know, maybe we could change this, maybe that. And when we originally went out with $1.5 million, you know, we said to the department heads that we see areas that we think, because of the discussions that we've had, that you could probably cut or, you know, change and do some things differently there. So when we met with them for that second round of meetings, while we didn't necessarily put our ideas right out there at the front, we were able to they kind of came in, some of them with the same ideas that we had, you know, so gaining that understanding, I think, was nice from both sides. We were able to cut the $1 million. We did some right sizing in some areas. We you know, looked at contracts and things like that, and we were able to get that $1 million down there. We looked at the allocations to some of the other funds and things, and you know, where we have to leave it, we left it where it was, but where we were able to kind of, you know, prod along and hopefully, you know, change some things, we were able to do that as well for the $1 million. The $500,000 that we still have, as you said, we are not raising taxes. You guys are adamant about doing that. So it's not going to come from a revenue side. It's going to come from, again, from the expenses. One of the biggest things that we were able to do was we had projected in our budget, the preliminary budget, a 6% increase in health insurance rates. And through a lot of hard work through our HR department and Dan Lukovich, who'll be here later, we were able to negotiate those insurance rates to actually, which is unheard of, I think, in most places. It's not only increasing, it's not increasing this year, we're having a decrease. So our insurance rates are going down by about 4%.
And no sacrifice in coverage.
No sacrifice in coverage, same coverage. We have an excellent plan. The employees will actually be paying less in. They still will pay 10% of the premium, which they've always done. But that 10% will go down because the premiums are going down. So we were able to recoup almost $250,000 out of that $500,000 deficit through the health insurance that they were able to negotiate and do.
Anybody works with healthcare, they can appreciate.
Yes, I mean, we've had some areas where
I can't believe,
you know, one of our areas, a small area, they have they have UPMC,
right.
And they are projecting a 35% increase. So for us to get a 4% decrease was
just
really
so
good.
our viewers understand, you know, that savings came after the preliminary
It came after
budget.
the preliminary,
So
yes,
we
yes.
were talking about a $500,000 deficit roughly. So this helped knock that down closer to a balanced budget.
Right, right.
Good point.
And then we were also able to go back, we've gone back and we've been looking at the allocations that will dovetail in with the discussion of the health center that we have. You know, we have always given them an allocation, and we went back and relooked at that and how much was needed there, and we cut that down. And by doing that, we really think that we are pretty much at a balanced budget at this point. Those were the two big pieces. We did have some increases that we went back and looked at the pension, and that will go up slightly. So, you know, but we have some increased revenues, that we will have increased revenues through our assessment because of the pictometry. So when we get those numbers in, we'll have a little bit of a bump. But right now, we are sitting pretty much at a balanced budget.
That program's looking
So-
more and more like an investment than an expenditure that it was kind of criticized for originally, because everybody's a little suspicious of that new technology.
Right, right.
And to Ms. Inglett's credit, she had the foresight to put that program in place, and or I should say, with the past board put that in place. But
And I know we critiqued that a lot at the
Sure.
beginning, assessed was this
Sure.
a good investment, bad investment? And I know getting Change Finder back and meeting with Jeannie recently, you know, those numbers look pretty promising, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that revenue.
Sure.
But based on the numbers, that investment does look pretty wide.
before you have a chance of getting it, you have to identify it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah,
Hey, may I add one other thing in the effort to bring things back in focus as far as a balanced budget? I thought there was a lot of very creative use of other funding sources.
Yes,
You
that
know,
was another
that's
big
something
area.
that I hadn't in my previous 8 years as chief clerk, Jacob. I didn't see that very much. There are groups, there are special funds that are allotted to certain departments, generally in the judicial branch of the county government. And we've received a lot of cooperation, especially from that area. And
Judge Valentine,
yeah,
Judge Panchik,
Yeah.
amen.
very
Yeah.
cooperative.
Yes.
And creative, just,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of work, a lot of back and forth, a lot of these
Yeah.
discussions. But it's turned out to be a godsend, really. We couldn't have balanced, I don't think we could have balanced the budget without that help.
Definitely not, no. And we've kind of gotten away. It used to be that they would come to the county first, all of these departments. And then if they needed something over and above, well, I have this, the fund over here where we collect some fees and things, we could use that if we have to.
Yep.
And we kind of went to them with the thinking that, hey, we're all in this together.
Right.
But if you could use that money first and then come to the general fund and come to the county, it's a reversal in the way of the thinking. And yes, they were very creative.
It's a perfect example of us working together as a county, having common goals to
Amen.
help the taxpayer, the
Yeah.
citizens here,
That's right.
and get our job done, but at the same time using resources that we have together. And it was great. I think that's just something that we can continue, and they were excited. We were excited, and I think, even Panchik mentioned, hey, it's one big family here, we got to work together.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
with those philosophies and that attitude, I think there's great things that can be done here, and I think it'll continue on that way. And there's times as other groups have some money and we're saying, hey, we've helped you for a long time, can you help us this year? We're some things we're
very good
working
point.
on.
Yes.
Hey, we help you, you help us. Sometimes you're going to need a little more, we're going to need a little more. But if we work together and say, okay, it's going to be tough for a little bit here. We're coming in. It's a new year. We're working on some old budgets and things that were done to, previous board we have to work through. It's not bad, but it's things that we were involved in, so we have to look at them and say, okay, where would we like some things to go? What would we like to do? And we're
A
getting
lot
different ideas, and a lot of great ideas.
Yeah, and a lot of that, I think, goes back to the understanding, meeting with the department heads, understanding how it works on their side, and them understanding what we're doing on our side too, and where we're coming from. And we were very open with them that, we've got a deficit and we don't want to pass it on to taxpayers. We need your help, and I think most people were very willing to jump on board.
Well, that also, and reiterating time and time again that we are not raising taxes.
Right.
We drew that line, and I can't emphasize enough what Jason has said, that, was it easy all the time in these meetings? Absolutely not. But, we all work together, and that cooperation got us down to a $1.5 million budget. Jen, two things before we cut to commercial. I just wanted to reiterate to the listeners where our losses were in revenue this year. And before you do that, I just wanted to talk, the unfortunate thing about this budget, we are going to cut some, there is going to be some layoffs in this process. It's something that we didn't want to do, but, I know the old adage, meeting after meeting, was, the previous board, hey, cut 10%. That usually was out of supplies and materials. Really, you don't get a savings there. You're not going to make up a $1.5 million deficit. Your true savings comes from pension or healthcare and employees, and it's not what we wanted to do. I know we were all gut-wrenched as we went through this process, but
Commissioner Fabian, you're absolutely three consecutive years, and I was a department head that had to find that 10% or that 5%. you get to the point where there's no more meat on the bone.
Right.
It just isn't there. And as you said, you're not going to save it in paper clips and pencils when you're talking those kind of numbers.
Those kind of numbers.
Yeah, exactly, Jake.
And that's where we had, I mean, we went back and looked at the departments, and, you know, we have a lot of new technology these days. So, you know, do we still need this number of employees? We're not collecting fees. Some of our fees and things are going down. We don't have some of the foot traffic in the offices that they're collecting. People are doing it themselves. So that was all part of, you know, where can we right-size the county?
I think it's important to say, too, though, in a lot of cases, it was through attrition that we were able to reduce or right-size these staffs in the county government overall. It was just not replacing necessarily the people, or perhaps replacing them with a part-time versus a full. And again, that required cooperation on the part of the department heads and elected officials. So.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not like we said, hey, you're going to get rid of this person. It was through some dialogue, round one, round two, and had some meaningful conversation.
Yes.
But Jen, to come back to, you know, where were our significant losses in revenue
in
this
revenues
year?
for next year's budget?
Kind
of the same
this year. This year, why did we have that
this year,
deficit?
and it follows into next year. One of the biggest areas, like Mr. Scott and I had referenced, was in the corrections area, the jail. We used to get a certain number of state prisoners, and we would get compensation for that, and they cut the number of people that we would have. So that was $400,000 right off the bat there. Another area where we had a significant shortfall was in the Marcellus revenues. We were getting about $500,000 a year. I think this year it came in at about $300,000. So that was something, you know, I mean, everybody's kind of experiencing that, just the gas, it slowed down to that extent. So that was a large part. We forecast both of those to carry into next year. Another thing for next year where we're showing that revenues will have a shortfall is in some of the state reimbursements in our judicial system. So, you know, that's...
half.
Yeah, we get a certain amount of reimbursement for each judge, and they just came and said, no, we're changing that. So those are some of the
Jen,
big areas.
I know this board, we were out the talk of the town the month of September, and whether some people out there in the community think it's a dog and pony show, this board is truly transparent, and something that we haven't talked about, and you know, another reason was our lawsuits. I mean, let's just be honest with people. You know, we had to settle about 4 lawsuits this year, and
that we inherited. That
this board inherited, you know, honestly, I'll just say I couldn't imagine what the number would be if we hadn't worked so diligently to settle those.
Well, like you said, you know, in the budget for 2016, there was a certain amount in there to give raises for the employees, and you guys had decided not to do that, to hold off and re-examine it at each quarter, and we just couldn't do it by the end. While we had that savings still sitting there, it was eaten up by settlements and just the legal expenses that go with the cash settlements and settlements that we had to make. So
legal fees.
Yes, so we had some big losses there.
So we're going to thank you for that very much, about updating all our viewers on the budget. So we're going to take a short break, and we will return. And when we return, we will talk about the health center and all about that. So when we come back, we'll talk about it.
All your professors, all of them, they know that all it takes is one dreamer with passion, one person, and they hope in each of you that you might be that one who makes a longer lasting light bulb, who writes music for the ages, who reaches into the mind and discovers a new star, and who can change the world of a 5th grader. We're gathered here to hope in you.
Welcome back to Education Today. Tonight we are talking with the county commissioners about November's update. Are there any updates on the Armstrong County Health Center?
Oh, yes. How you doing today, Maddie?
Good.
Great.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, no problem.
It's a great facility. We're happy. And you know what I really like? I just realized
The green screen?
The green curtain. It's like
that's a
Pat
green
Fabian campaign.
It's a green screen.
It is.
Oh, he's thinking colors.
Yeah.
That's why it's off to the side. So anyway.
But yeah, at our November 3rd public meeting, we had 2 bids come in. Actually, we had 3. But because one bid came in after the deadline, the Board of Commissioners chose not to accepted, and coincidentally and unfortunately, it was the highest bid we had out of the 3 bids.
Yeah.
Not that that meant anything, but just in terms of dollar amount, that was the highest bid of the 3. So, but Dan Lukovich is here today, our HR director. He was referenced earlier in the show, referenced because of the wonderful job he did on negotiating our health care.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
hey,
Dan,
thank you.
I applaud
Oh,
you.
yeah,
Thank
give
you,
it to him,
thank
right.
you.
I mean
Checks in the mail?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, don't cash it. So, but I was
we were just kidding about
I
you
know,
losing
I
your
know,
job
I
and
know.
that
Yeah.
helping it lower.
That was the
just a joke.
layoffs.
Yeah,
that-
yeah,
okay,
you
okay.
I wasn't kidding. But anyway, hey, thank God there's 3 of us.
You did
All right.
shred the paperwork, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I put it through the mail. But I was. When he brought that real quick, I was listening to him, and he's telling me about what's going to happen here, and I'm waiting for the catch, waiting for the the ball to drop at the end.
You're not allowed to have surgery. You can't go.
Yeah, if your appendix ruptures.
That's in the
good
fine
luck.
print.
Yeah,
It's in
it
the fine
is.
print.
Yeah, like what vet do I go to? As I was going to ask him,
In all
I've
honesty,
been to a few, and they're good.
a 6% increase would not have been. That would have
That would
actually
have
been a win.
that would have been a windfall, yes,
Yeah.
compared
A
to
6% increase.
But a 10% slide, go from 6 and
to
4.
-4 is a
yeah,
good
so,
win for the county.
Again,
Absolutely.
kudos.
Dan, great work. So I applaud your efforts for that. So.
Update on the health center. Update
Yeah,
on the health center.
I mentioned we got 2 bids. You want to let our listeners know who those bidders were since you opened the bids in
Yeah,
public
fill us
meeting.
in.
Yeah,
the dollar amounts.
we had 3 bids, and the 2 that we opened, one was Premier Health Center, and they actually are one of the bidder who now owns Sunnyview in Butler, and they own some other healthcare center facilities out east. The other bid was Center Management Group, which owns quite a few different health centers on the eastern part of the state. And the highest bid was from Premier, which was $5.75 million. The second bid was $5.6 million. They were 2 really, on paper, they look like they're a good fit for the county. Originally, we had 12 different companies interested in looking at the facility. We had 4 companies tour the facility, and it boiled down that 3 of those 4 that visited actually bid on the facility.
Well, go ahead,
I was going to
Mr.
say,
Scott.
it's fair to say that the climate right now in the healthcare industry, as far as nursing homes and things like that, is at a kind of an unusual place, that there's not a lot of movement.
No, it's kind of on somewhat of a law with some of the things that are going on. Usually in the healthcare industries, the value is based on the number of beds the facility has. The county's facility is a 115-bed facility, and a bed at a healthcare center has a value of anywhere from $50,000 to $90,000.
Pretty wide range.
Pretty wide range, yeah. And the bids for our facility came in a little over $50,000, so you can see we're on the low side. Why were we on the low side? Because of the structure of the building. Most of the people that came and toured the building looked at the facility and said, hey, for us to get it up to a standard that we're used to seeing at our facilities, it's going to cost $2 or $3 million to do that, to bring our facility up.
Well, Dan, just pause right there. Does the county have $2 or $3 million to do those capital improvements currently?
And I think when you listened to Jen talk earlier, there was no money even in the budget that we're trying to make the budget without raising taxes. There wasn't $1 put in the budget for capital improvements anywhere in the county,
And I'm
let
glad
alone
you-
a health center.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one thing we didn't talk about when we
Right.
talked about that preliminary budget. There is $0 in this year's 2017 budget for capital improvements, and that includes the health center and some, just our, the courthouse itself, the annex buildings, and we're not denying we have some issues that could use some improvements there, but as far as the health center goes, the county does not have those dollars to do those capital improvements.
And no, we don't. And I think, rolling off of last year, going into this year, everybody says, why do we want to even look at selling the facility? Well, the facility right now is about $1.7 million in debt from previous years, and we lost a little over $600,000 in this 16 year.
But when at the public meeting, the most recent public meeting, Mr. Parsons, the administrator down there, said that he had a budget worked out to
Oh, break
It was
even?
balanced, yeah.
Balanced budget?
that we wouldn't have any.
Right, when we went through that budget, and Jen and I along with Tom, and we do use Affinity to still do some consulting for us on some financial end of the business, which is a small portion, to do a lot of verification of the budget. His projections were okay, but he put some projections in that weren't possibly could happen. So when you take all his future projections out and come back to reality, how many people do we average at the health center? This past year, we averaged about 88.5 residents. So for next year, we only budgeted 89. So when you budget 89, we actually came into the hole of about 266,000 that were shortfall for next year.
He was budgeting for
He
a
was,
higher number?
well, he was budgeting for a higher number of residents in average, but also he put some speculations on some of the things that he thought he could change working with the union to bring some of those costs down.
To bring that full circle, I think when Mr. Parsons had spoke at our November 3rd public meeting and said that his 2017 budget was in the black, I think it kind of shocked us all because for months and months and months we've looked at the health center budget, and I think we know the numbers pretty well.
Annually, it's been.
But there was a lot of assumptions in there. The census was high. When this calendar year, you haven't even hit that census number. There was some concessions that he had put in his budget that nothing's been, there's been no concessions. There's been some assumptions that the rate's going to increase next July. That's not a guarantee. I think the one thing we all said as commissioners, meeting with our team, Jen Long and Dan Lukovich, is we have to deal in real numbers here. And this can't be smoke and mirrors. It can't be a smoke and mirrors.
Speculation's going to lead us
Right,
down
because
the road.
that's what we did when
Unless you're speculating on a conservative side.
when the team did budgets with every department. That's what we did. We asked everybody to do realistic budgets based on how things are today without making assumptions of the future, that there's no guarantee that those assumptions would happen in the future. So you can make budgets look good, but it's not reality.
Right.
So we brought all the budgets to reality along with the health center. And once we did that, we really found some true numbers of the value of the health center.
So I know we all met with Mr. Parsons here recently after the public meeting, and he had mentioned that they were in the black. So when we redid his budget, so to speak, what was the deficit going into 2017?
266,000.
266,000.
And these were agreed upon numbers.
Yes.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, Jen and I spent a lot of time with Tom this week earlier after that meeting, and as we did as a team last week, to confirm everything. And that's pretty much where we all come to a census based on the way things have been going, where we believe they would be in next year. That's a true deficit.
Well, I think a couple of things to mention too is just first off, like when Tom mentioned that in the meeting, I had, before going to the meeting, prepared myself for it and went over the numbers again, and was kind of shocked that my numbers didn't match up with his numbers, and then that's how we found out. We sat him down and saw his budget that he had, but also too in that discussion we came up with the understanding there's a cash flow issue down there as well, that they cannot obviously pay their bills at time, and hence our loans that we give them all the time to meet their demands and their payments and stuff. Yeah. So, I mentioned to him, hey, if you're in the black, then that means you can pay all your bills on time and don't need the assistance of the county, and that's still not the case.
There's an outstanding loan right now.
Yeah,
right?
and I understand the loan is from the county to a county entity. It's understandable, but in a business, you have to earmark them and keep track of the numbers. It's like an internal thing that we do here, item. So I think those things need to be conveyed. So alone, the health center cannot stand, and that doesn't include, like, again, any capital improvements that we have to that building, and it's in dire need of some things to upgrade it. So
just to piggyback on what you said, they just requested this past week $63,000 from the county just to make payroll.
Well, and I can, off the top of my head right now, you're pushing about $250,000 in the last month and a half that we've had for payroll, retirement, that we've had to ARC payment, yeah, that we had to give to them to keep the boat afloat.
And there's an outstanding.
So that 600 by Ed's year is probably going to look more like 800,000.
It'll be close to 800,000 because what the county already contributed over 450,000.
Right. Now, I want to touch on the bids that we had here, what we have received for the bids. Some people say that's high, some people say it's low. I think it's pretty much in the ballpark, because one of the things that we had put, the condition of the building too, they're going to have to put upgrades to it as well. But then one of the other things is we put covenants in to protect the jobs and the workers and the individuals there.
Right.
So if we'd have just went out and said, hey, we want to sell this,
do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want, and we don't care, we could have got more money for that. But being that we put some restrictions on, we have one for 10, the state, I think it's 15 years for theirs, a skilled nursing facility, to ensure these and do everything we can to protect them as in the long run here. And it can be done. And that way, that puts a restrictor plate on them, and that's where you get the lower numbers.
Right.
And that is not speculation, because I asked that question at public meeting of Jay Wenger, who's our from Susquehanna Group, our advisor on this consultant, and he's worked with, I think, 8 or 9 of these things, and he said that was absolutely a factor. And we knew that going in, as Commissioner Renshaw mentioned, but the fact of the matter was, those were 2 priorities that we wanted part of the agreement.
A few other things too. It used to be 190 beds. Is that correct? Back
when
in
it
the
was
day?
when it was converted from a hospital to the health center originally, then it got reduced to 115. 115
beds, and then also too, from those 115, one floor was taken out and put into apartments. So that reduced it from probably making millions of dollars on the beds.
We were talking about that last week.
I knew you had the numbers, that's why I turned.
Why a couple years ago would a set of commissioners wipe out an entire floor of the health center, 12 beds I believe it was at that time, to put in 12 or 6 apartments that make the county $1,500 a month, giving up an annual revenue source of $2.2 million in jobs? I don't understand it. I haven't got the answer to those questions, but that kind of revenue, you can't just drop off.
Well, and that's where these people that come in and look at these things see that. And I think sometimes they can adjust, they can maybe use that for other types of care and stuff like that as well. So it's not a totally dead thing, but it's also doesn't. And of the 115 beds, we only have available 103 to use. But our current census average is 89, so it's not like it's been full the entire time. So we have room, obviously, for people to come.
Right, and we talk about the sale of the health center, and that hasn't been a done deal by any means. We continue to work with the union to negotiate under the current situation that we're in, and the commissioners formed a team to go out and meet with the 2 bidders. The team is 9, and of course it's the commissioners, Jen and myself, and 2 employees from the health center, a business person, and the administrator at the health center to be part of the team to meet. We have a bunch of questions established to talk to them by phone interviews initially, and then we'll be going out visiting the facilities that they own to see if they met the requirements of the bid. So that'll be all happening over the next few months.
We will be doing those interviews this afternoon.
Yes.
Or actually right after
right after this and tomorrow.
Today, and then we'll have one scheduled tomorrow, and then we'll do an unannounced visit at some time at our discretion. We can get the committee together to look. But Dan, I think you bring up a good point. This is just one thing that we're exploring now.
Right.
And I will say, gentlemen, we've gotten numerous emails in regard, and mainly from health center employees. And I know we've all worked collectively to get back to anybody that's emailed us. We have extended a phone call. No, they all haven't picked up. Some have. Just to give them some understanding about the exploratory process or the state of the health center. And there seemed to be, everybody that I got off the phone with, there was a better sense of understanding of what's going on, and their anxiety went down.
Right.
It's important to have the full story, the entire perspective, and then make your judgment.
And I know we were Commissioner Renshaw was at a meeting and came back from a meeting, and the misinformation out there
there's a lot.
Blows my mind. And we did give a best attempt to get the town. That was the main reason driving force about these town hall meetings, is to talk about the health center and the exploratory process. I know we're using this as a venue to get out information. We're emailing people back. We're returning phone calls. But there's sources out there, if you want to call them that. They're giving misinformation. What cracks me up is, there's somebody in the community that has no problem speaking about the health center, but he's never once been in a public meeting.
Right.
Never once has reached out to the commissioners for insight or a list of questions. And that's frustrating from when we're trying to be transparent and get the information out there, the correct information. You're kind of fighting somebody out there that's misinformed grossly, I will say.
Well, I think the numbers don't lie, and I told these people at the meeting I was at, I said, well, that's not what we've been hearing. I was like, well, if you hear us talk, come to our meetings, come to our town hall meetings, you're going to hear the same exact statements here, because this is the truth. Whether you believe it or not, that's fine.
You don't have to remember what we said.
No, I can tell you the same thing I've been telling everybody. It's what we're facing. The facts are, this is what we're facing.
Natty, I bet you never thought a bed would be worth between $50,000 and $90,000. That was like shocking to me when I first learned that.
Well, surprisingly, when it comes to how much they pay for the room themselves and how many people need it, I mean, there's the cottages, like my grandparents moved into the cottages, and that was a huge benefit for them because it helped just all around. With my grandfather, he had difficulties, and it just made it easier for them and easier for us because we live right near there.
Nice.
So when there's people that you can't make it, like you're not as close to your loved ones, you should be able to trust the people there, like who's handling it.
Excellent point, Maddie.
To take care of them.
Like that they are in the right conditions. So sometimes the costs really are believable, and that's what it should be because you want
the best.
them the best.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I'm glad you said that too, Maddie, because one thing we all agree on is we have superb staffing down there, top notch. So we're blessed with a really good working group of people that are a blessing to the county overall as far as taking care of the people in need. So very good point.
Yep, and we're committed to ensuring the quality of care and everything for our residents and the employees.
Through those people.
And, it's just something that we're driving to here. But coming back to these numbers here and everything, I think what we can say is, hey, it's something that we have to address now. You cannot kick the can down the street because, a lot of things that we're being accused of here is, you're going to shut it down, close it, where are these people going to go, is what we don't want to happen. If you don't act now, in the long run, we don't want to see the county run out of money. As you can see from our budget, we're running out of money, and we're doing what we can to operate on a strict budget we have here so we don't put the burden on the other people. And we're going to do what we have to, but we don't want that to happen. We're going to do what we have to, so we need to address it today. It's 2016. We have means of taking care of these people. We can take care of them. Nobody's going to be put on the street. I emphasize this. County code says we have to take care of the indigents in the county. So we're committed to doing that no matter what, whatever that means is. So we will take care of these people. Nobody's going to be on the street. Nobody's going to be left homeless. We will take care of you.
But the real question is, and we brought that up to Mr. Parsons last week, if we don't acknowledge the financial issues down there and rectify the budget issues, that there's a real possibility if the county continues to operate, and we're looking at ways. This is the exploratory and sell is just one thing. But when we were working with Mr. Parsons on his black budget, if you don't have to plug in those real numbers, and if there's not concessions made, there's a real possibility, and the county's strapped financially to begin with, there's a real possibility. Then all those comments you hear about where are these people going to go and where are those jobs going to go, that's a real possibility that it could just close on a whim.
Well, I think you're right, Commissioner, because at this point in time, we still, the taxpayers, and we representing the taxpayers, have some leverage in the matter, have some say. We could do something, we could fix things before it gets to the point where we don't have that choice, because the trajectory, as you said, currently, the state isn't becoming more and more generous, let's face it.
No.
They're less and less, and so is the federal government. Go ahead.
I'd say with the healthcare industry the way it is, the way things are going today, it's a very uncertain business. It's an uncertain thing, what we're getting into. So I think we have to look at it now. It's one of those things you just can't not look at it and say. And I encourage anybody if any questions, come in, sit down. There's right to knows you can file. Take a look at what we have here, and you will see the writings on the wall. You can believe whoever you want out there, but these are the numbers. These are what they are.
Can I say just one more thing about county government and the things that we're in charge of and that we own?
Yeah.
I think, I know I've heard a lot of people make comments about the Belmont. Why don't you sell the Belmont, keep the health, you know, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, with the Belmont, we don't have the latitude that we do, you know, with the health center in making changes. Roughly a $4,000, I'm sorry, $4 million grant deficit there requires us to maintain that facility as is and so on and so forth. A lot of restriction. This goes back to what we said earlier about the things you deal with, Maddie, in government. It doesn't happen, you know, because you want it to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we're not looking at that, you know, facility.
No.
You know, Dan, I just wanted to, 2 more things before we kind of wrap up. I know we had talked about going to a commercial too, but I know I just looked at my clock and we do have a interview to be at 10:30, so we'll just keep pushing through that. But if it's okay with you.
Okay,
Is it
Maddie.
long?
That's
Yeah,
fine
Maddie.
with me.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever
Okay.
gets you where you need to
Nice.
go.
Makes it easy on us.
I know we're not going to publicly talk about concessions and
Right,
negotiations,
right.
but the county and the union recently had a meeting, recently as Monday, this past Monday.
Yes,
the idea,
absolutely.
yeah.
And they've been coming up with opportunities and things like that, and we've been working together to try to find a possible solution if there is one. But the key to get to that possible solution is that we actually needed to know the real numbers of what really goes on at the health center, and I think all the hard work that this team has done, along with Jen scrutinizing everything to the penny, really determines exactly where we're at with everything, not only at the health center, but every other part of the county operation that goes on.
But credit, as I think Commissioner Fabian was alluded to, should be given to the fact that you have worked amicably with the group.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it's you know, yeah, and it's the team here that the commissioners established that we move forward as a group, which I think brings a lot of good ideas and concepts together that the county is moving forward. Maybe not as fast as we all like to see it, but we have to find where the baselines are to move forward, and I think you guys have
Those
done that.
meetings have been happening.
Yes.
They are scheduled in the future.
Yes. Yep.
And they've been productive.
Yep.
Some of the, a public meeting on November 3rd, I think it could have been misunderstood one way or another.
Right.
That, we weren't talking to them, and that's not necessarily
That's not true.
It might not be us directly,
Right.
but it's a team that we
It's a
put in.
team that continues to meet with them, absolutely.
So, all right. I just, one other thing that happened on November 3rd, I just kind of wanted to update, and you guys can chime in, is we entered a lease agreement with AC Properties. If you're out there and you're familiar where the courthouse is in the annex building, between our property and Fox's Pizza, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
There's a building there, and we are looking to bring all our entities that are currently housed in the Armsdale building back to downtown Kittanning for several reasons. And if you guys
I'll
want to
say
take
first.
one or two,
I'll
go
say
ahead.
first and foremost, because I was here when they did the studies, Jay. There was a professional study done on that building, the Armsdale building, and to bring it up to a acceptable level of operation, okay, access, so on and so forth, mechanically, HVAC, was $500,000 just to get it level, and to make any improvements that would, make it let's say a desirable space that people would want to spend $14 a square foot on or what have you, was another $500,000.
And I'm the type of guy, I look at some buildings, and I'm like, hey, that looks pretty good, where do you see it? But when you get into the ADA compliance and all the state building code regs, if you update anything, then that's what trumps a lot of your common sense. Say, hey, just put a slope roof on it, we can do. Now, when you're looking at that building, as far as it's served the county well, I don't think we owe that building anything, but I think also, too, we're focused on economic development. So if you can take an aging building, move them into a brand new facility, we have a lease. It's a constant for us. When you're doing budgets, that's a great thing to know what your constant money flows, fixed costs will be. And also, we're having 80 to 100 people that are going to be coming in. That doesn't even include the people visiting the offices that'll be in downtown Kittanning. So that's our main goal. It's a win-win on both aspects. And I think it's something that has been tossed around a few times. But I tell you what, it wasn't until we came in and we really met with these people. We had different ideas. That's where you get a lot of people saying, hey, this has already been in the works for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of moving Armsdale and moving those people has, but not this type of a deal, because we've looked at many ideas, not just this one. So,
Jason, this building has been vetted for that purpose previously. Okay, and I've been told that that fell through.
Right.
And they said, so this is going to fall through.
yeah.
But I give a lot of credit to this, Mr. Stolitza of AC Properties. He has worked more like a partner for the county than let's just say somebody who is only interested in his half of the equation. I think he's been great to work with, is all I'm saying. I know that my cohorts are great.
And those entities that would be coming downtown is behavioral health that's housed in Armsdale Building, Conservation District, Penn State Extension, and Area Agency on Aging. So I know it went out to the engineers for drawings and constructions. We've had good dialogue with Mr. Stolitza. So there's going to be the economic impact to downtown, containing that fixed cost budgetarily. And two, I know you haven't said it yet, but I have this kind of dream to do something with Armsdale, whether we sell it or we kind of do some treatment out there, because the drug epidemic, and that's another show, is just rampant here in Armstrong County, and focus on the treatment side of things. So.
Because real quick though, the treatment, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, when they're in the jail, the county's paying for it, and it's pretty much almost like a treatment facility now. If we can put them into a treatment facility, the state would help pick up a lot of that.
Well, that
Whole nother
vendor, I guess
Yes.
would say that provider would pick up that.
And the individual is more
Yes.
likely to become a productive member of society again and not relapse.
And that was we were leading to that.
And it gets people, and we've stated this before, from our jail system, justice system into the treatment aspect.
But also I think what we're getting to is, we talked a lot about some buildings here from the health center. We just mentioned the Belmont. We got the Armsdale building. We got the property on 85. I think we're looking at the county and say, we don't want to own property. We don't want to be a landlord anymore. We need to reduce our assets that we have and just focus on county government. What do we need to run the county? And I think that's what we're seeing here. If we can offload a lot of them,
Puts it back
a lot
on
of
the tax
costs. There's a
rolls.
lot of maintenance with those things, upkeep. I mean, you can sit down and you might say, hey, when you have a $20 million budget, what's $6,000 here or there? Well, that's the philosophy that I think gets a lot of times the county's in trouble. So I think we
Property
need
insurance is effective.
Yes, there's a lot of
Everything.
things.
I know you wanted to say something, Dan, I could tell.
It's time to go.
Thank you. There you go. It's like Mr. Rogers here. Do we do like a theme song here? Put our sweater back, take it off, put it in the closet. So, I don't know how this works here.
Maddie, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Maddie. Pleasure's on this side of the table here. You're on the same side, but I know, but it's over. You feeling it? You feeling the love?
Yep.
There you go.
Of course.
I can see it.
Always here at Armstrong. Well, that's our show for today.
go.
We'd like to thank our guests,
Thanks for
Mr.
coming.
Pat Fabian, Mr. Jason Renshaw, Mr. George Scamee, sorry,
Come on.
the Armstrong County Commissioners, as well as Mrs. Jen Long, Mr. Dan Lukovich, I'm
That's
sorry,
a tough one.
for joining us tonight. Our thanks also goes out to the TV production students of Armstrong High School, led by their teacher, Mr. Josh Miklos, and they were our film crew today. Sorry. This program will be aired in the usual time slot for Education Today on Comcast cable stations, as well as published on the County Commission website. Please join us again next week in another look at Armstrong County School District. DVD copies of this Education Today programming will be requested by containing Chris Garetano, multimedia technician at Armstrong High School. Visit our website for updated information about the district, and have a great week.